Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out this evening for our meeting. Can you hear me? Should be able to. Just a few housekeeping things before we get started. Each of you, first of all, should have received a card like this. So there will be Q&A after the presentation. And so if you would write your questions down, we will come and collect the cards and I'll read the questions, and our team here will do the responses. So that's the way we're going to proceed this evening. Is there anything else that I should do or say? I don't think so. So without further ado, Mariana Hernandez, I'm asking her to come and speak to you. She is the Chief of Staff for Mayor Bazzi.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We're very happy to have you all here today. This is a collaboration that we've had thanks to Mayor Bazzi. He joined the Cities Initiative organization about 3 years ago, and he has been collaborating very closely with DCC. And they got selected for this pilot project that you're going to get a presentation on today, which is going to benefit all of our residents and the Ecorse Creek floods that we've been having for years now. I also want to mention that our city engineer couldn't be here, same as the mayor. They're both at our conference today, so they couldn't attend. But any questions that you have, I'll be happy to relay them to them, and they apologize on behalf of that. With the city engineer, he also wanted to mention that this is just one of the many projects that we have ongoing right now for flood mitigation along the Ecorse Creek. So one of the biggest ones that is happening is the $10 million that the Wayne County is putting towards the cleanup that we have. That is not what you're going to get a presentation on today, but it is one of the projects that is ongoing all along the entire Ecorse Creek for maintenance, as well as the projects that we have in collaboration with our community and economic development, which are for the acquisition and demolition of homes in the Ecorse Creek floodplain. So if any of you is interested in participating in those, we have 2 grants that have already been awarded that cover over 40 homes that we're going to be demolishing in the next 2 years. And we are applying for a 3rd one right now. So if you know of anybody that is interested in selling their homes because they're constantly getting flooded, please go and see our new economic development director, Ms. Layal Saad. Can you say hi? She has some forms for anyone that's interested. You can share it with your neighbors. Or if you're interested yourself, you can apply, and we will be happy to put your home in for the next batch of grants that we're receiving. But we're very excited to have the DCC group here and the Cities Initiative Commission presenting the project for the Wine Malt project we have here. I'm going to introduce Ms. Jasmine Dancy from DCC. I'm sorry, she's going to be the main speaker today.
Thank you, Mariana. All right, welcome everybody again. Thanks so much for joining us. I know I also spoke with the Ecorse Creek Commission a month or so ago, so many of the faces look familiar, so thanks for joining us again. Again, my name's Jasmine Dancy. I'm with the Downriver Community Conference. The DCC has been around for close to 40 years. We're a consortium, of 20 cities in this area, all along the Detroit River, all the way west to Romulus and Huron Township. We work collaboratively on regional issues. And so our partnership has been with the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative. Mariana mentioned that Mayor Bazzi is a board member of that organization. We're thankful to have his leadership represented on this international organization. So the Cities Initiative, we've been working with them over the last 2 years. They provided grant funds for us to advance different efforts into the design phase. So we all know that there has been an extensive amount of planning done on the North Branch of Ecorse Creek. We lean on those efforts that have come from the Army Corps of Engineers and from Wayne County to inform our work. So we're all working collaboratively together to advance these projects. So we know that the Army Corps has recommended a huge plan across the whole North Branch of Ecorse Creek that would probably cost upwards of $800 million to $1 billion to do the whole Ecorse Creek revitalization. And knowing that that is such a immense undertaking, our strategy has been to start to break that proposal into smaller projects and and take bites out of this problem that's been happening just to start to get some solutions actually happening. So what you're going to hear about today is a 1-mile pilot project for design. So we're looking at a 1-mile stretch on the North Branch that is going to be advanced first through this design phase, and I'll talk about the timeline more at the end, to get to, in the future, to implementation and construction. So this should look familiar to you folks. This is an actual photo from the Ecorse Creek, and what you'll see here is not an ideal look for a creek. It's not necessarily a healthy body that what we're looking at. So there's eroding banks, which is causing sediment into the waterway and downstream. We have lots of debris jams, we know, which is also preventing flow. And then just muddy bed that is not a dynamic habitat for our ecosystem and for the living organisms that should be in a healthy body of water. So here, this is just an overview of the whole watershed, but what I'm going to go through here is a kind of a layered approach, and this is what is informing our work across the whole Ecorse Creek watershed. So we're going to be using the goals I'm going through as a lens for how to choose and advance and prioritize projects and the results that we want to eventually get to. So the primary goal is, number one, flood mitigation. We know that that's the concern of our property owners and our friends at the Drain Commission. But we also want to take into account ecological health, and I want to point out our friends in the back with the Friends of Detroit River. They have been a great partner in this watershed and have done a lot of important work that is helping us in this process. And then community development, that's kind of my hat. So as serving as economic development director, we want to bring that lens to this process as well. What is the possibilities for improving the local economy, bringing in tourism and recreation opportunities, taking that all into account for a holistic approach. So we also know that even with all of those great goals in mind, you're going to have some constraints, right? So land availability is probably the one that is most prominent. Dearborn Heights is such a densely populated area. We want to make sure that we're taking that into account. Where do we have more room? Where do we have less room? What engineering techniques fit within those constraints? So we look at the private and public land. Is it available for purchase, like what Mariana was talking about with the home acquisition? That allows us to have more property to provide more flood storage as we move forward. There's other constraints that we take into account along the stream. These are a little bit more engineering based, but basically it gets to the length and the depth and the actual land area that's available. And then the adjacent infrastructure that's there too. So we know a lot of the bridges and the culverts and the stream crossings are causing some issues as well. So it's all of these things all layered together, and we're taking it kind of one section at a time. All right, so here is our map of the actual 1-mile pilot project. We're really excited to share this. The left boundary here is Telegraph Road. About middle of the way where the line changes from green to blue is Madison Street. And then you keep going east through Heather Lane Park there. So that is our 1-mile stretch. Anybody have homes in that area? Okay, a couple of you. Thanks for coming. So I'll go through, we kind of have it divided, that Madison Street. Like I was saying, west of Madison Street, we don't have as much available land. The properties are really closely abutted to the creek. But as you go further east, with the properties that have been acquired and demolished in the past, in that much larger Heather Lane Park area, you have a lot more land to work with. So we have it divided into what we call in-line, so in line with the creek improvements to the west, and then offline, which means actually looking at taking the water off of the current creek when you're looking at that blue line to the east. So I'll go through that in a little bit more detail. So here's these in-line enhancements. So we have a couple, probably 2 or so different techniques that are proposed here in this design portion. And actually, I'm going to just pause and have my friend Ralph wave in the back corner. Ralph is our representative from our engineering team. So we coordinate with, contract with Stantec Engineering through the city's initiative. That's all been paid for through our grant program. I am just overseeing, and I'm happy to be the public face, but Ralph knows these engineering details and can get into some of those more specific questions better than I can. So if anything comes up, Ralph is our guy for that. So as we're looking at this inline enhancements, the orange box here on the very left side, and then you see just a little bit of one there over onto the right. Those are called constructed riffles. So a riffle is an area of a stream, what you see in this picture on the left, where the water is kind of bubbly. That's like the babbling creek that we all kind of have that imagery in our head, where there's a rocky bottom and the water kind of shimmers and bubbles as it goes through. That's actually an engineering design feature that we can incorporate that will slow down the water, increase oxygen, and provide habitat, all while increasing the flow and the efficiency of the waterway. So we have those proposed in 2 areas there. And then the green hatch that you see kind of on either side of the creek proposed is what we call wood tow. So, or also a combination with native plants. And what that is doing in those couple of areas of the creek is providing stability for those stream banks that have been eroding over time. So what that is actually designed to stay in place or be filtered through at a reasonable rate, which is part of the design. But that again just makes the whole stream bank more stable so that you're not getting all of that sediment and the falling in that what we're seeing right now. So that again is the inline enhancement east of Telegraph up to Madison Street. Okay, now we go east of Madison Street where there's much more room. So we're able to do some kind of different, more substantial restoration practices. So I'll show you some of those pictures there. If you see the slight dotted line that follows up kind of along the top of that green area, that's the current creek. That is where the creek is right now. What we are proposing is taking the actual flow of the creek into the plain of Heather Lane Park and meandering it, creating a more natural type of stream flow. And what that does is you get much more basically storage for the water. It also slows it down and allows for, those orange boxes again are much more prevalent there. That's more of those riffles. So what it does is, it makes for a more natural, pleasing. That's where, in partnership with the city, they are looking at rehabilitating, redesigning Heather Lane Park with this design in mind. So imagine, if you will, a beautiful meandering creek where the city then can partner and look at doing, bridges and, a more beautiful parkway with beautiful trees and native plants in the area, and just make it a really interesting, dynamic parkway that also serves the primary goal of flood storage. This is the part that I think is getting really cool and creative, and I think it fits the city's goal, having taken those homes out of the floodplain originally, and that's what gives you room to do more of these substantial practices. So as we move forward, like I said, so we're trying to take this big project that's been proposed by the Army Corps of Engineers and break it down into little pieces as we go through. We want you guys to be aware that we are keeping those original goals that I went through, as well as all of these additional options for what is going to be appropriate for each of these little bites of the puzzle. So we are really, truly trying to take a comprehensive, holistic approach that meets all of those goals in the beginning in a creative way as we move forward. So we are working as basically a whole North Branch Creek coalition from Romulus down through Ecorse. So that is our vision for this holistic project. Some of the benefits that we believe will come from this specific 1 mile pilot project, obviously once it gets through the design and construction project process, would be number one, like I said, increased flood storage. We're going to be protecting property boundaries. We're going to be making sure that that stream bank is stabilized so that you're not getting your backyards falling into the creek anymore. Reducing the maintenance required. We know that Wayne County has their maintenance requirements and have their whole process going on, but these restoration techniques are designed in a way that will allow sediment to move freely, allow the water to move freely in a way that prevents future sediment buildup. Improving water quality, wildlife habitat, and like I said, recreation potential. We think those are all very important as well, and things that you can see in a more healthy creek. Once we get through to implementation, we're really excited to be able to, like I said, take what we've learned here and expand it to the rest of the creek. So we see this as a replicable model that we can then go and take downstream, upstream to Romulus, downstream all the way through to the mouth of the river. And we are working and doing that to secure funding in future phases. But we're calling this a pilot project, a demonstration project, to prove basically to these big funding opportunities and granting organizations that, hey, look, this is important, this is valuable work that's important to this area. Here's what else we need to do. So it's really leveraging what all of the work that's already been done here in Dearborn Heights and showing it to a bigger audience. So with that in mind, we are finalizing this preliminary design in early next year. So we want to take the feedback that we get tonight from you guys. So we're going to be taking questions afterwards, but also please feel free to write them on your cards or send us an email afterwards. We want to incorporate all of that. This preliminary design is not final. And even still, there will be continued opportunities for community input and community feedback as we move forward. So once we complete this 30% design is what they call it. We'll want to take that through to complete design, engineering, and then construction. So we need funding for all of those along the way. There is no funding allocated for those next steps currently. Okay, so I do want to be honest about that we are utilizing grant funds as they come. This City of Dearborn Heights is being very proactive about going and securing grants for multiple projects, all for the benefit of all of the issues that are going on with Ecorse Creek. But for this particular 1 mile stretch, we still are going to be working on our team to secure additional funding. So we'll have to do that again for the final design, permitting, and into construction. So that completes our presentation for tonight. I'm happy to go ahead and take some questions. Please feel free to reach out. I know my name is kind of cut off there, but it's just my name, jasmine.dancy@dccwf.org. I have business cards here if you'd like to give me a call, and we can set up another time to chat. Again, this is a community-informed process. We are really excited about the possibility, especially if you look in the back at some of those boards. There's one just right here to the right of the back doors there. It's called Restoration Project Examples. Again, that should start to get your mind going on the vision that we really think is possible here on Ecorse Creek. And when you think of what it could be, we're really excited by that. So we hope that you are as well. So with that, I'll also have Ralph maybe come up here up front just so we can kind of tag team this. But feel free, let's go ahead and take some questions.
Did anyone write their questions down?
Oh yeah, if there's any written questions, we can do that as well. But ma'am, yes.
So, I mean, this is just in planning phases and you don't have the ability to break ground at this point. But when you do you anticipate any temporary impacts to flooding risk while there's like heavy equipment and materials moving around and that sort of thing?
Unlikely, I don't know that I need a microphone. Unlikely flooding risk, more likely just the movement of soil and stuff. We would need to keep sediment from inside the stream and keep it from going downstream. I doubt that anything we would do would increase the risk of flooding while we're constructing.
Okay, good question.
Yes, good question.
Yes, sir.
How's your coordination with the other communities that share the Ecorse Creek?
That's a great question. So we're really excited. We've had some really great work upstream with the city of Romulus. We've submitted a grant that we're hoping to hear from soon, which would do the same thing, 30% design like we've done here in your 1 mile project, to do 7.5 miles in all of the headwaters of the Ecorse Creek, which is the majority is in city of Romulus. So they're aware of that and really excited. We're all keeping our fingers crossed for that. And of course, we know that whatever happens upstream comes right through here to Dearborn Heights. So we think that that would be a great benefit to your residents as well and everyone else downstream. So the other further downstream communities, we are talking with on a very regular basis, and I might turn it over to Mackenzie here in the back too, to wave your hand again. We have what Friends of Detroit River are leading a group called the Ecorse Creek Committee. So all of the communities that are in the whole Ecorse Creek watershed, 12 communities, I believe, have representatives. We meet on a monthly basis, and that's also open to the public to attend. They're virtual meetings. You can log in and listen to the work that all of the cities report on their, issues and efforts. Wayne County Drains reports, Friends of Detroit River and the Downriver Community Conference. We all provide reports and updates on a monthly basis so that we're all coordinated. We're also, at the Downriver Community Conference, we're working on the possibility of establishing like a strategy plan. We know that there's a lot of coordination and opportunity for many of these projects going on. We're trying to set up a formal strategy team that would meet to help prioritize those issues as well. So, but we are meeting on a very regular basis.
Yeah, what I see we're in the middle of the Ecorse Creek. We got a community on this side of us and that side of us. How can we start anything without them moving towards us? You got to start at the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. For us to start doing the work here in the middle, it'd be fruitless, wouldn't it?
I think the purpose of it, though, is to show what can be done, to show the techniques we'll use. And then as Jasmine said, the goal is to go upstream and do the 7.5 miles upstream. You're correct that it's better to work upstream to downstream, because as you take every drop of water out upstream, it reduces the amount of flooding downstream, right? As opposed to trying to take it all out downstream. So, but this is a pilot project just to show the technique. And we chose this, I think, in concert with everyone because of the availability of the land and the ability to do it there. So it's just a demonstration.
And also, as they're doing this design work, they are taking into account what could happen up and downstream. There's other projects, as we know, that have to be taken into account, and that all goes into their calculations so that it's adaptable, pending other projects happening.
That's what I was going to ask. Are there other communities west and east of us, because we are right in the smack dab middle, that have a pilot program going on? And we've been listening to these things for almost 10 years. At least. And I would really like to see something done. We've seen the houses that are 5 houses away from me ripped down. Families were compensated for it, and that's great. But that's where they raised their family. And their houses have been gone for quite a while, and nothing's been done. If that would have been my home that I went to when I first got married, and they said I have to leave it, and I've been gone for years and nothing's done yet, we need to see something done. It's just getting too many studies.
Yes. Yeah, we agree with
Too much money spent on studies. That you need to show the community that something, and I mean, what does Romulus, I know Allen Park has flooding issues because we see it when we go shopping that way. But do other communities, have they had to take their houses down, move families in order to give us that room? Are we the only community that whoever FEMA helped relocate these people? Or was Romulus, was Inkster, did they have houses that had to come down? Or is it just us?
So I don't want to speak on behalf of the city, what their strategy is when they are removing those homes. But I think FEMA's intent is if you're moving homes out of the floodplain, then that is the work, that is the mitigation.
But were other communities, did they have to do that? Did they have to remove homes?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know for sure, but I don't believe so. And Dearborn Heights is some of the hardest hit, so that, is why FEMA gives you guys so much attention, is that there is so much flooding here. We know that you guys are more at risk. But I don't believe there have been any other communities that have taken advantage of that opportunity to clear homes from the creek, but I don't know that for sure.
Correct. I was just going to say, FEMA awards these grants to every community. I don't know if other cities take advantage of it. I know historically in the city of Dearborn Heights, we have been purchasing homes for many years already, which is how we managed to have the piece of land that they're using as the pilot here. And we continue to take advantage of that because our residents are the ones who suffer the most. And again, as I mentioned earlier, this is a voluntary purchase. We're not kicking anybody out. We're just offering the opportunity for those that are tired of the floods to relocate to a different location with the FEMA grants. And we have been lucky that FEMA has provided an even larger amount of grant this year. In the past, they would only do 75% of the cost of the project, and the city would have to put 35%. Those were the old houses that we purchased. The new batch that we're purchasing right now, which is the 40 ones that we have, they're actually matching 90% of the cost, and the city is only putting 10%. So again, I don't know if other cities are willing to do that match for those grants. In our organization with our city council, they see the need for this, and they have consistently voted in favor of getting the residents out of those horrible situations.
So where are the houses that are targeted now to be, are they on the opposite side of the creek?
So all of the properties that we've been looking for have been typically in the Hanover and Courier area, and they're the properties that are right adjacent to the creek. So those are the ones that we're prioritizing, the ones that do have those backyards that are falling into the creek, garages that are falling into the creek. So those are the ones that are taking priority right now. Again, because we have quite a few that have volunteered already, we're talking with a representative in FEMA to see if we can move to the other side of the creek. But it also has to do with the elevation of the home. So they take that into consideration as well. So when we have a list of the residents that are interested, we do the elevation studies on them, and that's how FEMA truly selects which homes they're going to award the grants to.
Are you doing east or west of Telegraph when you're saying Courier and Hanover?
West, yes. But again, we are open for a new grant. So if you're interested, we have forms here. We're opening the list as well. So if you are not in that immediate area, don't be afraid to let us know, because we'll keep an ongoing list. And as grants come up, we can negotiate with FEMA. And when they do become available, we'll give a call to those residents that are interested that aren't right in that location too.
There's another question? Yes.
That map there in the lower left-hand corner, the project actually starts at South Telegraph, or does it not start until Madison?
No, this is Telegraph here, right here. Madison Street is this right here.
All right, next question. There is an open area along Hanover there, and I was curious why you didn't change the flow of the creek in that section between Telegraph and Madison. Yeah, that whole section there to the left is a wide open area, and I was just wondering why you didn't change the flow to increase, the length of the. So you did this. Why you did the same thing up there at the top in the blue?
Well, excuse me. One of the reasons I'm not exactly sure why this particular corner wasn't used, other than it's a very small area. So we did this between this road and this road. We had that whole length that we were able to realign the stream. You wouldn't be able to do that here. You might be able to provide little bit of, I need to get rid, a little bit of detention, and we may look at that as we move forward with the additional design. But I also don't remember if there was any property issues there. There could have been property issues on that.
That's all city owned.
Yeah.
That whole section there is city
That's
owned.
where the first fire station used to be. on
Yeah.
that corner.
I just didn't know. I
Okay.
didn't know.
And there's no
Yeah.
homes east of that. It's a field. My kids used to ride their bikes in that field.
That fire station was falling in the creek. too.
Yeah, and that's been gone for years.
Well, yeah, we'll definitely make a note as we move forward to finalize this design to see if there's any room for additional meandering. Is that what you're suggesting? Some additional, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's great. Just to the west of Madison Street with that property there. Yeah, it looks to be open, so.
Is this presentation available online?
Not yet, but we're happy to provide it to the city and they can get it on the website. I believe the presentation I did last month to the Ecorse Creek Commission is available. It's similar to this, but we're at more detail now.
Okay, and one further question. You talked about $800 million. That seems so huge.
It does.
At DCC, are you envisioning or thinking that the 12-member communities might have to establish a special taxing district to help pay for that $800 million?
So that is not on our list of ideas, I would say. There is a mechanism in place through the Wayne County drains, their petition process. Property owners along the creek could be assessed, I think is the word, assessed to fees in order to offset a project. If Wayne County chooses to do that or whatever, but that is not what we're trying to advocate for. We're looking for other opportunities to get funding through federal grants primarily and looking at foundations for match dollars. Yes, sir.
What happened to that $10 million that they were supposed to clean up the creek?
Yeah, that's a Wayne County, their maintenance project, and we know that is a very top of mind for all of us here. I know they started at the mouth of the creek and they moved their way up through Ecorse and Lincoln Park, Melvindale. I don't believe that they're in Dearborn Heights yet. Nope. So they are still going through that process. They're still going out to bid on for these different phases or the different stretches that they're working on. And there is a website you can go to that provides those updates of where they're at in the process, but they are still working through that.
Are they gonna have enough money to get through Dearborn Heights?
No.
Probably not.
It's not my project, sir. I understand the concern, but I don't have those answers.
I thought they already had like a drone study in our area.
Yeah. We did that, the council.
But what did they-
$50,000 and we
So what did the
we
study
spotted
say?
all
Yeah,
these
these people
different
need
problem
help.
areas. So it's been used by McKinsey through Detroit River, and I believe Marianne has more information.
Yes, the drone study, what it did is it identified areas of concern along our city portion of the Ecorse Creek, and we have shared that with DCC, with the Friends of the Rouge River, and with Wayne County. So as they're developing their projects, they're taking into consideration the information that we provided. As far as the Wayne County project, the only thing that we know is that they're supposed to start in the city of Dearborn Heights in spring of next year.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Is this project all funded by Dearborn Heights?
Not at all. $0 from Dearborn Heights. And actually, the grant that we're receiving through the Great Lakes and St. Lawrence Cities Initiative, the DCC pays for the membership dues into that organization on behalf of Dearborn Heights and our other 20-member communities. So no tax dollars have been used on this project.
Why didn't you use what Army Corps of Engineers said to do?
We
in
do.
17?
Yeah, actually we do. That's exactly what informs this.
Yeah, but we've done 2 of
You're talking
those.
about the detention
As
basins?
long as I've lived in Dearborn Heights, we've done 2 of those. Army Corps of Engineers that we paid so much money for that they just dropped. Nobody did anything.
Some of that information to be used in the study that we have here, in the design that we have here, but mostly they're doing that, or they're using that right now in projects that they're proposing.
And with regards to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, we actually have boots on the ground. So they did come to the location and they're doing the power spacing study. They have the equipment to do the studies on the ground and everything that's necessary there. So we do have a design in progress right now, and they have access to the property. So they've been coming in and out for the past 2 weeks.
The Army Corps of Engineers is actually advancing that design for the Powers Basin. We believe it could be enhanced, and we're working through that process. But all of these are separate, but all related projects on Ecorse Creek. So the Army Corps' focus right now is on the Powers Basin. Our focus right now is on this stream restoration work. Wayne County's focus is on the maintenance, and Friends of Detroit River has their projects for restoration and ecological health.
Who,
I know, like, you're getting pushback, because understand, and you've probably heard this, like, Ecorse Creek, people have been dealing with this for decades. We've been dealing with study after study after study after study, and here you are with another study, another project. And I get it, what you guys are trying, but it's, you guys, like, did one study 10 years ago, now we gotta restudy the study. This is where the frustration is. It's, you guys say grant money, we're using grant money, no tax dollars. Our tax dollars is grant money. It is grant money. Everybody uses the word grant money. Understand, that's your tax dollars. So this nice word of grant money is your tax dollars. So this is where the frustration is. How many more studies and studies and studies? I appreciate you guys, but this is the frustration.
Oh, of course, we understand.
they want to put the money in their pocket instead of in the creek.
Naturally.
One of them was kind of what the gentleman asked. Who's putting this project on? How many years?
So the project is the 1 mile pilot project right now is being led by our organization, the Downriver Community Conference.
What is it?
The Downriver Community Conference.
Okay, and I'm sure everyone here thinks that the money's already available, it's ready to start.
No, I hope they don't get in that impression.
Well, I bet you everybody here does, right?
Yeah.
Well, I did go through, I'm happy to bring up the slide again of the timeline, but I do want to clarify that no, there's no future funding available at this
So
time.
there's no funding for this project right now.
Correct.
So we're still back to where we've always been, that we keep getting.
For the design, yeah, this design is being funded. That design is currently going to be completed at 30%. We will have to go through and find additional funding to advance to final design, engineering and permitting, and construction.
Wait, I got something.
Yeah.
20 years ago or so, the Army Corps of Engineers came, we had a big meeting at the high school, and they said, they went through all these things, they said there's one project and one project only that's gonna solve this problem, retention basin. That's from their mouths. Not all this cleaning up the creek and all that stuff. Now, and that's been ignored, that was $80 million, astronomical figure. Now it's over 10 times that. So we should have did that, we did. Now the same thing, this ain't gonna happen right away, it's gonna be 1.5 billion by the time you do it. But the one drawing you had, or rendering, where you change the creek through the middle of Heather Lane Park. So we are eliminating a park.
I don't want to say eliminate. Well, keep going, I'm
It's
sorry.
all gonna be used for storage and when it floods, the whole park area. I did a little research, that's what the plan is, that's retention area now. So.
Well, it is currently being used as retention as well.
Yeah. But you said it's gonna be like a nice meandering park, like, we can't take our creek now. It's gonna be a new creek with stuff growing up all over the sides of it, it's gonna be jumped, shopping carts in it, picnic tables, barrels, tires, meandering through it. Plus, doesn't meandering slow the water flow down? Instead of a straight line, speeds the water up.
Right, right. It does slow it down, but it's also part of it is all this, what you refer to as retention basin. This is like a retention basin, it's floodplain storage, which would be the natural way a river would store their water. And so that's what we're trying to do is put that water that would normally end up in somebody's backyard in this flood zone. The river's going to be lowered, and where you see these two dots, that's going to provide floodplain storage during events. So, and when there's not events, that can all still be parkland. So, you just wouldn't play in the park in the middle of a rainstorm.
I did some study and I found out that lowering the river doesn't do anything. But, because you can lower the river 100 feet, and it just builds 100 feet of water.
But we're doing more than lowering it. So all this area between these two dots here is going, I keep getting close to the speaker, I'm sorry, is going to be excavated down as well, that's what will provide the storage. Lowering the river channel itself is not.
Yeah, so that's gonna be a wide open area. When it floods, it's gonna be all flooded. And then when the waters go down, it's gonna be a big mucky area with mosquitoes. My kids play in that park. They call it a bear park because of the playground is a bear. And they play at it right across that bridge. They play in that. They're not gonna do, have tennis courts there.
Well, we pickleball courts.
Yeah, I mean, we already funded money. We already funded money for that. I mean, going right through a park, we have too many parks in Dearborn Heights. Yeah, let's just get rid of one that we have. I mean, this plan here, to me, it's senseless.
So you would like to see none of this, and you would just want to install your like tennis and pickleball courts here and not change the creek at all, not provide any additional flood storage. Is that what you're recommending?
Well, let's do it someplace else. Why do it in a park? We've got a place on Hanover Street that's just that big, just east of that. Just east of this on Hanover, we just put out 14 houses.
I appreciate your comments, and we can definitely take note of that.
And, I mean, why don't we put every penny that we get, every grant from the Detroit River to Romulus, put it into that retention basin. It wouldn't have paid for it by now.
If you're referring to the Powers Basin, that's the Army Corps project. That's the one Powers Basin. There's in the Army Corps plan, other basins are proposed. It's not just that one. And I don't have the data on the Powers Basin, but I believe the Powers Basin, once complete, will provide flood storage for a 2-year flood event. 2-year flood event.
What's that mean?
That's the most common event, so something that happens about every other year, roughly, on a recurrence. It's actually a weird term because it's more of a percentage thing, but it's something you'll see often. Generally, drainage design is designed for a 10-year or higher.
Well, I'll tell you, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. You're new. All the presentations we see in the last couple of years, the people are new. But we're the old people. We see this every day, and nothing's gotten done. So why should we even think of this? Why should we even walk away with any kind of hope from this meeting?
I understand.
I'm a lifelong resident. I've lived for 67 years in the south end of Dearborn Heights. I played on the creek as a child.
You're not that old.
Thank you, sir. And I know that's the sentiment of, the majority of the residents here.
All looks good, but, it's just something the past of throwing us a bone. Here, we're gonna do something for you, okay, until, everybody forgets about it, then it floods, and it's a hot topic again. And then it floods go down, and no one talks about it, and then floods again. We've lived it. We've lived it. So you gotta show us more than this.
We're hoping so. Thank you, sir. Question in the back.
Yeah, so by your dots, you're representing where the channel is. That's gonna be your deep channel. And then you were talking about sloping, coming out away from that with sloping grade down. So when we do get overflow from the creek, it's still gonna be retained in that. So you're talking, a 15, 20 foot main channel with how far out are you sloping out?
You mean the width of the main channel?
Yeah, well, I get the main channel part, but you mentioned that you were gonna have a graded down towards the creek?
Yeah, so each of these areas where the bends are, that will be graded as floodplain. So it will be graded towards the river, but only slightly. It'll be pretty much flat until you get up towards those black dots, which is the edge of the easement. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I missed the last part of what you said, but I get the main channel, and then you're sloping way out.
Yep.
So as it floods, it's gonna stay, the channel's gonna expand out.
Correct.
And until it overflows off.
No, the river's not. No, that's the whole key. The river's gonna be about the same size. The channel width, it's the floodplain that's important to store the flood water. and it'll come out, that 2-year storm you mentioned, that's when it is designed to come out of bank, when you get to that level.
Sorry, is that the reason, one of the reasons you're moving it away from those houses, backyards?
The biggest reason we're moving it from the houses is so they don't erode into the backyards, but it's also to be able to do this design, to get the river into the middle of that floodway.
Got it.
So you're going through where they tore out the houses on Hanover, okay? And you're bringing the creek closer to the houses that are on Academy and on facing Hanover. What about those people?
Yeah.
They flood in front of their house, floods all the time. There's debris always on the sidewalks by those houses.
Sure, and this project alone probably won't stop the flooding up under the sidewalks, but it also isn't going to, just because the river's moving a little closer to the house, doesn't mean that they're gonna be any more at risk than they are now.
It seems like they would be. Yeah. If you're bringing it out, I don't know, 30 feet closer to their homes.
What we're gonna have to do is just make sure, like here, that we're far enough away and we provide enough protection on the bend to make sure that it doesn't erode up to the house.
I live on that end of the street, and on the other, closer to Van Born. I can't go, when it rains, I can't go down that street, because it's always,
Sure. And
and it makes me worried that it's even gonna be worse, and it's gonna come before.
this is gonna make it better, probably not noticeably better until we're able to do additional work. It'll reduce the amount, the occurrence of flooding a marginal degree, but until we do additional work, it probably won't have a cumulative effect.
Okay, like she was saying, because I live on Academy also, but I live a little bit north of her, so a little bit closer to the creek. And I can remember standing at that intersection of Hanover when the houses were still there, talking to Mayor Coletto, when he was saying that FEMA's gonna do this, and I even asked him, does that mean if those houses come down, the water's gonna come down Academy towards Van Born even more? Because those houses, the water used to fill up the Colonials, their basement.
So the homes themselves were providing flood storage, is what you're saying.
The water's going to continue to come towards Van Born Road.
Right.
And there's sidewalks there. People actually use the drive across bridge at Madison Street, and they walk across that whole where those homes were, a sidewalk, to get through Heather Lane Park, to go that way. So that means now the creek is going to be closer to that sidewalk. That's not going to be a very walkable family, walk your dog area to me. I thought the creek was going to stay where it is, cleaned up, the debris, the electrical lines that look like they're going to touch the ground soon, at the end of Hanover and Academy. I thought that was going to be cleaned up.
I think some of that might happen in the Wayne County Maintenance Project. If you're talking about cleaned up, mean like getting some of the trees out and everything that's falling in. That will happen with the Wayne County Maintenance Project, I believe. Yeah, yep, that's what they're working on. So that just clears the current channel. It doesn't change the flood storage.
There's a sidewalk there people use. I'm like Mary, I drive that street 3 or 4 times a day. And if it's raining like tonight, the city might be out there right now putting a wooden thing so that they can put that in the street to tell people don't drive there.
Right.
And the people that live across the Telegraph, when it rains like this, they don't sleep.
On Hanover.
They don't sleep. Yeah. So something has to be done in our lifetime.
Some of the people that were on the news said that their places had flooded like 8 times.
Sure.
Completely flooded. I don't know how they're still there.
It needs to be done sooner than later. And all this study, please do something. Get something started. That's all citizens ask. In our lifetime,
I think why everybody's getting so frustrated is this has been going on from different places we've had to go to different meetings, and the biggest one was at our high school, but that was 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And they told us it was gonna be done in 7 years. And nothing, they haven't did anything.
Any other questions? Specifically on this project?
First of all,
I'm impatient because I've been at public hearings from Ecorse Creek for over 50 years. When John Canfield was mayor, is when I had my first flooded basement. But I do remember it held a public hearing with Cap Herrick, the Wayne County Drain Commissioner, and I do remember 50 years ago, I was a lot younger, and I didn't know what questions to ask, because there was a gentleman in the audience who stood up at Annapolis High School and said, I have a letter from the Federal Housing Authority advising the city of Dearborn Heights not to build on the floodplain. That was 50 years ago, and part of the problem here is we have built on the floodplain. Now, we're all getting educated, and I just want to say this, every time I come, I learn a little bit more. To Tom and all the people here who like us old folks, it does get tiring and frustrating, but I'm glad to see a project moving forward finally. But we built on the floodplain, the city of Dearborn Heights, and now...
It's not just Dearborn Heights, it's throughout the whole creek, so it's not just you guys.
So every public hearing that we have, I learn something new, like a ripple. I didn't know what happened.
I thought that was fun.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Chris, you know, you're right, because probably 80% of the homes on the Ecorse Creek are in Dearborn Heights.
Okay. So we built up the floodplain.
If it's beyond the scope of today's meeting, I'm hoping that maybe there can be some follow-up through the city. But for those of us that don't understand what it means to try to gain that funding, I think that would be a useful thing for us to understand. What steps does that take? Who are you going to? How do you broaden that?
Yeah, we kind of call it a funding roadmap. So yeah, that would be a great informational session that we can work with. The city has, again, their own strategy that's, you know, much more comprehensive, whereas we're kind of working on these projects. But I think that'd be a great thing to facilitate.
Who are, okay, I understand you're here for this project, and I understand the frustration because I am on the corner of West Point and Hanover, okay? I am across the street from the creek, and I get flooded all the time. Who should we be taking our frustration to?
Wayne County Drain Commission.
Is it the Wayne County Drain Commission? What about like?
Wayne County, are they the ones that take care of
The Wayne County Drain Commission is in charge of cleaning that creek. I give them an email about once a month about the bridge culverts being clogged by debris.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. We have another grant that's actually going to convert 2 of those culvert bridges into regular bridges to stop that debris from gathering in those culverts. So again, there are multiple projects that the city is tackling with grants from various different sources and collaboration with many different organizations. So again, we're aware of all the problems, and we're currently looking at it at various different levels. So there is the large U.S. Army Corps of Engineers that has boots on the ground right now. We have small design programs that are going on like this one. And then we actually have funding to actually change the things that the city is capable of, because Wayne County does own the Drain Commission and every access to it, but we can get funding to change the building designs for our bridges and different things like that, which we are doing. So we did get funding for that through the CDBG-DR. That was the disaster relief funding that we received from the floods in 2021 that became available to the communities, and we applied to get some of that funding. So that is a project that is funded and is in design right now. So you're going to start seeing some of that work taking place.
And another note on bridges and culverts, I actually want to give thanks and recognize Senator Peters' office, who is here. We also have a request Downriver Community Conference does in for $2.5 million in this, hopefully to be approved in this coming year's budget. Thank you to Senator Peters for getting that in there, again, for a bridge upgrade, yeah, to increase so that it's not a constriction point there on the creek as well. And that's in partnership with Dearborn Heights. All of the work that they're already doing looking at their bridges, we'll be collaborating with that for an additional bridge work.
So would our Wayne County commissioners, would those be people that we should be voicing our frustrations to, and our state representatives and even our federal representatives, we should be contacting them and saying, look, this has gone on far enough.
I think the commissioners are a great place to start if the main concern is that maintenance and the regular maintenance of it. On these big projects, like when we have, some kind of funding or strategy meeting, it would be really great to get, a large body of public support for some of the major grant applications we're going to be submitting. And that would show, great collaboration and advocacy work to all those people that you mentioned, all of our legislators. So, yeah, but it never hurts to let them know that this is important to you so that it continues to stay on their radar. We talk to them on a regular basis. The city talks to them on a regular basis, but to hear it from residents and voters is very important as well.
Thank you very much. And thank you for coming out and, sharing this information with us. Hopefully this can lead to something. Thank you.
Just a question. Now, you mentioned that we've gotten some of these grants, but how long before what's the turnaround time from the time you get the grant money to actually working on the project?
So I must admit, getting the money is the harder part. So once you have the money, you typically have about 2 to 3 years to complete the project. So with the grants that we do have, again, we're going for construction for a few of them with the city. The design is going to be done, as you saw, in early spring. So again, we have a limitation of up to 5 years for most grants to spend the money. So you have to use it. And now that we have it, again, we're already contracting the designers and the work is going out. So 100%, you're going to start seeing a lot of change in the next 2 years. Because again, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is here doing design. So you're going to see that design probably by the end of next year. We have the FEMA homes that are actually being purchased right now. Like we're doing appraisals on those homes for the 40 properties that we're buying. We're out for design for the bridges that are going to be transformed soon. So yeah, again, it's design and construction at this point because we do have the funding for construction as well, but you have to start with design. So
we've done all these studies and they've given us all this information of how they're going to do it. So explain to me now, why are we doing another design study? Shouldn't that have been done in the first thing?
Yeah, well, for one thing, this is an implementation project. So this is what we would like to implement in multiple spots along the Ecorse Creek in order to reduce the flooding. This technique, you will notice a difference, not as much of a difference as you will when we're able to work upstream, but you will notice a difference. So that is happening. And
a plan and a study versus moving into
we already paid for like 3 or 4 of these studies, and I've lived in Dearborn Heights for 49 years.
That's right. This is an actual design.
But she just said, once you get the grant money, now we have to go out and get a design to do what we want to do. So how many designs do we need?
Well, you could use this design for some of those grants, but then other parts of the river don't have a design yet. And so you'd have to develop something similar. But I think the idea is to use this as a blueprint for other parts of the river, along with the work the Corps is doing with detention basins in multiple places.
And I do want to clarify, sir, just 1 minute back to this woman's question. The picture that we have on the screen, that's a graphic. It's not what the design document actually is. So, when the finished product that Stantec provides to us for 30% design is an engineering blueprint, with all of the specs and the measurements and, an engineering blueprint. So it's not just this. This isn't.
What we paid the other 3 or 4 design things.
The Army Corps studies were not designs. They were just the studies. So that gives you the baseline data to inform this work.
Okay.
So yeah, let me clarify a few things. So I know that there were many studies for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So a study is just looking at an area and identifying whether or not there is a problem. Then there's actual funding right now to actually provide what those solutions are going to be, and that's what the design is. So that's the stage that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers is in right now. That's the project that they're working on here right now. They're going to give us the blueprint of what to do. And then once those designs are ready, then you can go into construction and implementation. So that's the 3 steps of
What's the projected cost for the study, design, and construction of this 1 mile?
I don't have the exact numbers. It's a little frightening. It's a lot of money.
Like more than $1 million?
No, I think for this, now that this part is done, we've already done a lot of and we do have background data. I think you're talking a couple $100,000.
Oh, that's all?
Not for construction.
Not for construction. No, construction would be, we're talking maybe close to $1 million.
Yeah. $1 million, that's all?
Yep. I think so, for this. For this one reach, it's 1 mile. Could be a little more. Could be a little more.
We know things go up as time goes on too.
Not to be rude, but there's county spending $10 million on just cutting down trees.
Right.
Well, they're gonna do this for $1 million? Move the creek? And you know, one thing is, I was at the county meeting when they discussed the project they've got going on, and someone said, well, you know, who owns the creek? And the guy says, listen, I'm telling you right now, this is the definitive answer. You draw a line down the middle of the creek. The people that live on this side own up to the middle. The people on this side own up to the middle. The people own the creek, but the county maintains it. That was different. So what's going to happen? What's going to happen there where it's going to a park? So people are going to, their property's going to increase, and they're going to have to pay more taxes, because you get more property, or how's that work?
It all depends, you know, if it is a park, if it's a city or a county park, it would be the city or county who would own that property.
I would think city property.
What's that?
It's city property.
It could be city property.
It is. Yeah, it's city property. So the city will be obligated to maintain it then? Because
Maintenance is
throughout
still
the
fall
years,
and we have to agree.
yeah, so throughout the years, the city's been saying, that's not ours to maintain, it's the county.
Right.
Well, now it's gonna be the city's property to maintain.
No.
This is still a drain.
It's still the drain, and the drain has to approve this plan, which they've been in all of our conversations, so.
All the way out though now, all the way to that 40 or 50 feet on each
The
side.
floodplain storage then is the property owner, which would be the city in the Heather Lane area.
And it would depend on what they do with it. So it could be a park, you know, that they mow.
They currently maintain that area as well. But folks, I really appreciate your time. I want to be cognizant of the timing here. We're happy to stick around and answer some more questions, but I did want to wrap it up as a group for right now. And just thank you guys again for your feedback. We've notated your questions and concerns, and please feel free to reach out. We'll keep you guys informed as this project advances. And thank you guys again for your time tonight and your patience and all of your passion for this important issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Jasmine. And again, as a reminder, if anybody is interested in taking some forms for volunteering a property or take some to your neighbors, please stop by to see either me or Leal here. Okay, thank you.
Do want to recognize State Senator Santana's representative is in the back as well. Thank you to Senator Santana.
Hi, I'm Ralph Resnick. I work with Stantec Consulting. I'm an environmental engineer, part of the team that developed the pilot design for the North Branch Ecorse Creek project. We're happy to be working with all the partners. We're happy to be selected as the engineering consultants to help restore the North Branch of the Ecorse Creek to a more functioning stream and to reduce the flooding in the area, which is probably most important to the local residents. We're using a technique called natural channel design to put the natural shape and dimension to the river. After we're done, we're expecting it to be full of enhanced habitat and flood control by expanding the floodplain along the riverbanks. The first pilot project is a 1 mile stretch that we hope to be able to use as an example for the whole North Branch Ecorse Creek Basin.